Tomorrow with a quadruple header on ESPN and ABC. The first game on tap, the Warriors facing the Spurs in a rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. Golden State is a big favorite in this series, but can they shake off their late season struggles? The Warriors were outscored by 41 points since March 1st. No team in the last 20 seasons won the NBA title with a negative scoring margin from March 1st through the end of the regular season. Now, both teams will be without key players, Steph Curry for Golden State, and there's no sign of Kawhi Leonard returning anytime soon for San Antonio. Draymond Green says they still need to respect the 7th seed.
I mean, they're Spurs, they don't beat themselves, you have to beat them. They will allow you to beat yourself, so it's just about being solid, playing our game.
For more, here's First Take.
All right, guys, so the Warriors will play the Spurs Saturday at 3 p.m. on ABC, but as you just heard, both teams missing arguably their most important player in Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard. Stephen A., who's the bigger loss, though, Steph or Kawhi?
To me, it's clearly Kawhi Leonard. San Antonio Spurs have no chance of going anywhere. We all know this, and we know it because Kawhi Leonard's not there. It's the only reason that we know. Last year, when Warriors were running roughshod over everybody en route to another NBA Finals appearance, even with Kevin Durant on their roster, last time we saw Kawhi Leonard when it mattered, they were up 23 on the Golden State Warriors with Kawhi Leonard putting on an absolute show and completely rattling the Golden State Warriors until Zsa Pachulia undercut him. And so what we have is a situation where the San Antonio Spurs are a good team, exceptionally well coached, with an overachiever right now like LaMarcus Aldridge, who's been balling. Rudy Gay is back in the lineup, etc. But in the same breath, we all know that we don't give them much of a chance of winning without Kawhi Leonard. You always have a chance with Kevin Durant on the floor, with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. That is not the case with the San Antonio Spurs, and it's literally only because of Kawhi Leonard.
Well, I think what you're actually arguing there, it seems to me, is that the Warriors are better than the Spurs. I agree with that. I agree with you also that Kawhi Leonard's better than Steph Curry. If I had to choose either one of those guys healthy, give me Kawhi Leonard. I think when he's healthy, he's the second best player in the NBA. But the answer here is Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the bigger loss, and I will tell you why. Because the Spurs have been playing without Kawhi Leonard essentially all season. It's to the point where if Kawhi Leonard came back, and there was a fake story floating around yesterday, Kawhi Leonard's going to play in the first round. I got very excited for a second, Stephen A. But even when I saw it, I thought, who says they're better with Kawhi right now? Maybe they're worse. They have to reintegrate him. Who knows what he has right now? But Steph Curry means that the Golden State Warriors, suddenly you pull the rug out from under them. They have to adjust on the fly to no Steph. They've been the juggernaut again with Steph. Without Steph, they've really struggled, and it's not hard to see why. Look, what made the Warriors before KD even got there? And by that, I mean a team good enough to beat a hobbled Cavs team in the finals, and a team good enough to come within a hair of repeating as champions, but eventually losing to the Cavs in the finals. And that was with Draymond being suspended a game, as you pointed out, and Steph being somewhat physically compromised. What made them the Warriors was Steph Curry. As you have to pick him up from so far out because he has unlimited range. It creates more space for everyone. When guys rotate, other shooters have way open looks. That was one thing. And the very next thing that made them the Warriors was Draymond Green as his pick and roll partner and as a guy who could play the five and you could play five out because he could shoot from deep also. Of course, much better than he would normally be able to because of Steph Curry. So what happens when you take Steph out? Now, you add KD, you put him over the top. But the reason they've been struggling when you take Steph out, Klay Thompson shoots like 10% worse from three without Steph on the floor. So what does that mean? The dude shoots almost 45% from three with Steph on the floor. That's absurd bananas, all-time great, considering the number of threes he takes. So you take 10% off that. Oh, he's a 35% shooter without Steph? 35%, that's okay, that's good. There are guys who do that on every team. That's nothing special. And why is Klay on the floor to do that? It's not to put the ball on the floor, drive, make decisions, grab rebounds. He can defend. He can do some things. But it's really to kill you from outside. Suddenly, Steph's not on the floor. Lots of teams have guys who can do what Klay is doing without Steph on the floor. And Draymond Green, though he also runs a great pick-and-roll action with actually KD, but he gets much less of it without Steph on the floor. So you're thinking Warriors, right? But you got to stop thinking Warriors. Without Steph on the floor, they're not the Warriors. Without Steph on the floor, they're a collection of talented players, but not so much more talented than many teams. Not as so talented as you would think. Now, they're more talented than the Spurs, Stephen A., but then the Spurs have Popovich, and he's managed to finagle a playoff berth from a team with virtually no one on it. So look, I'm not arguing Kawhi's not the better player. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that the Warriors aren't better than the Spurs. I'm arguing Steph right now is a bigger loss for the Warriors than the Spurs not having Kawhi.
Well, you would have a very, very valid point with that long soliloquy, Max Kellerman, if the Warriors were playing themselves or a better team. But they're playing the San Antonio Spurs, and for the purpose of this conversation, it would be one thing if the Spurs were playing somebody else and the Warriors were playing somebody else. But the Warriors happen to be playing the San Antonio Spurs, which has the 27th ranked offense in the NBA out of 30 teams. Outside of LaMarcus Aldridge and his 23 points per game, where you could put somebody like David West or even JaVale McGee on him from time to time for crying out loud. The bottom line is outside of him, your second leading scorer on the team is Rudy Gay at 11.5 points per game. So what I am trying to say to you is that for the purposes of this series, because they're going against the San Antonio Spurs, the absence of Kawhi Leonard is far more profound for San Antonio than Steph Curry's absence is for the Golden State Warriors. Now, if Golden State Warriors were going against Houston in the first round and San Antonio was going against New Orleans or going against Portland or somebody else, you'd have a point. But they're playing each other. And if you're the Golden State Warriors and you don't really have much to concern yourself with a team that ranks 27th offensively because they're without one of the top 3 players in the world who happens to be their leading offensive player, then it changes everything. And that's what this comes down to.
Well, okay, again, I'm not arguing against that. The Kawhi Leonard is the best player by so much on the Spurs, and without him, they have virtually nothing. It's been a Popovich joint. I think he's my coach of the year, as I've mentioned. But let me ask you this, Stephen A. Not in some parallel dimension, not in some vacuum where we're just comparing Kawhi and Steph, but right now. If Kawhi came back in reality here on planet Earth right now, how much better do the Spurs get? I'm not talking about prime Kawhi, in sync, everything. I mean, suddenly he reports, you know what, I can play. And Popovich says, yep, we're going to use him. How much better did the Spurs just get this Kawhi right now, this circumstance, versus if Steph miraculously came back, you know what, I'm good to go? How much better would the Warriors get? Steph would make the Warriors, would bring them up a lot more than Kawhi would right now.
You asked a question and then answered it.
Stephen A.
Let me answer your question.
Can I add one thing into that question? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to make you so frustrated. I was just going to say the better question is really how far would the Spurs actually go if they had Kawhi? But feel free to answer whichever you want.
Where I'm going with this is simple. Let's say Steph Curry comes back. Let's say Kawhi Leonard came back. Kawhi Leonard's return would have more of a profound impact on the series if both of them returned than would just as much as both of them being out. That's my point. Kawhi Leonard on the San Antonio Spurs makes them that formidable. Do you understand that with Houston playing the way that it's played, with Golden State being what Golden State is, do you understand that if Kawhi Leonard was on the San Antonio Spurs, we have to consider them a title contender? That they would probably, that likely, everybody would be scared that they would get to the conference finals because of one man. Golden State might go there anyway.
Right, no, but Stephen A., that's not answering my question. I'll ask it again. I won't ask it rhetorically. I'm asking it genuinely. I don't mean Kawhi Leonard, who's been playing with the team for weeks and weeks and weeks, has his basketball legs, is in sync and fully integrated into the team. I mean today, this Kawhi Leonard joins this Spurs team, and now we have a series, Game 1. You think that makes a more profound impact on this series than if the Warriors got Steph back, who's only missed, he hasn't missed all that much time. You think that this Kawhi has a more profound impact than this Steph?
No, but you have to concede that's changing the narrative, because when we ask the question, whose absence is a bigger deal, that's a very generic question as it pertains to the amount of time they spent out. If you're saying, well, Kawhi will come back, but we don't know how healthy he is, and he's been rusty because he's only played 9 games this year, whereas Steph Curry has played more games, of course you have to give the edge to Golden State. I was just talking about the whole general question of whose absence is a bigger deal, period. The absence of Kawhi or the absence of Steph. And I'm saying the absence of Kawhi is a profoundly big deal, because without him, we're not even thinking about the San Antonio Spurs. With him, they are a title contender.
You know what, Stephen A? We probably agree about that, but even then, even if you said, hey, it's a prime Kawhi and he's fully integrated into the team and we're not dealing with reality, we're dealing with like a parallel universe where that could be true, even then you may not be right, or at least it may be closer than you suspect. What has the Warriors' record been since Steph went down? Meantime, the Spurs made the playoffs almost fully without Kawhi.
Okay, we disagree.
Up next, what did J.R. Smith say that might have LeBron all sorts of hyped up right as the playoffs begin? We'll let you hear it for yourself. And how much of a challenge will the Pacers be for the reigning Eastern Conference champs? Max and Stephen A. tells if Indiana has any shot against the Kings.
Either they criticizing the music, comparing numbers, or making the
Allow me to impart my wisdom upon you.
Zip it!
Watch your manners. Woo! To beat a man, you gotta beat the man.
Feel it in the air. Taste it hot off the grill. Spring is here, folks. The only question is, will you be?